Today I'm going to be speaking about this whole idea of being a rule breaker and business and Bangalore, sort of all of the things together. But basically, the whole idea is rule breakers are an essential part for crazy businesses. Okay, so let me get the idea across. So if you really look at businesses, right, that change the world, for a huge part, they've all been rule breakers. There are no, I mean, businesses that sort of followed one particular path and then made it to extraordinary levels of success. I mean, if you look at it, even if it's not like literal rules, like when I say laws, like they did not break laws and stuff, but they just broke like the fundamental way of things being done or the efficiency that a different method can create and all of that. And that's like basically an essential part when it comes to businesses, is what I've realized. So the problem behind this whole idea of rule breakers really is when it comes to like places like Bangalore and India and Asia in general, we're very rule abiding, right? Like if you tell a Bangalorean in a tech company to build something, he will build it like beautifully in seconds. But to really go out of the box and question why should we do things like this, there is a more efficient way of getting it done, and doing it like that is not that common. It really, if you really like understand it on a deeper level, the whole fundamental reason behind it is because in Asian culture generally, like if you look back at history and stuff, right, during the 1700s or so, in that period when basically Vasco da Gama and all these guys from the West were exploring different parts of the world and colonization and all of that was happening. Obviously, not very good things came out of it, but there's one real core idea that differed from the West and Asia and the East, for example, and the East, really. So it was this whole idea of in the West, going from your country, leaving your home, going in the ocean, and all of that back then was a huge risk, right? Like, first of all, you're getting out of your comfort zone. If you're really living a comfortable life, which they weren't really, I think so. Like a lot of like European countries were very poor in comparison to Asian countries, at least, and they sort of, but even then, I'm sure, with their lifestyle that they had, when going into the ocean was something that was basically going out of their comfort zone. Now, the reason why it was going out of their comfort zone is because obviously the ocean is gnarly, right? Like you get seasick, you can get all sorts of diseases, and God forbid you do land up in another place, you can pick up all sorts of diseases because your immunity system isn't like equipped to handle those regions, right? And not only that, but the technology that they have developed back then, like ships and stuff, weren't up to the mark. Like today, when you're traveling from one country to another, there are not too many things that you might have to worry about in terms of if you were to go through the ocean. But back then, there are literally like weather was a huge thing because the ships probably weren't equipped to handle such like harsh weathers and all of that. They did not have systems to judge weather, but nonetheless, they did it, right? Like they explored, they went, and they made crazy discoveries through it. They became really wealthy even through it. Like, I mean, by looting countries like India and stuff. And even just finding like new countries like the US, where they created this whole new fundamental structure of how society could work, and the American dream and all of that. So basically, the idea I'm trying to convey is they were like, you know what, fuck our comfort zones, let's get out of it. Whereas in India, we were probably really rich also back then. So that's probably, you can't really blame us for it either, because we had comfortable lives. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know enough about this, but I've read this one book, and from that, these ideas are basically coming. But in India, we're sort of comfortable. We had the wealth. And, in fact, I don't remember which traveler it was who came from the West to India. And he was literally like, when he went back, there's a book or some article written, I'm paraphrasing like a lot at this point with this story, but he basically went back to his country and he wrote that there are riches like never before in this country. Like, everything is in gold, and it's just so very wealthy, nothing compared to anything that we have here back at home. So very rich, very comfortable. And so that basically creates this whole atmosphere where we don't necessarily need to get out of our comfort zones in the first place, which made us sort of confined to stay in our countries. And these guys were going out, taking all sorts of risks and doing all sorts of crazy shit. And then that sort of created that mentality, very deeply ingrained it in them. Whereas for us, it's more of like, yeah, we just, stay in our box. So it's a little controversial idea, but I think it's generally true. Like you can go across anywhere in the world and they'll tell you that Asians will work like motherfuckers. Like they'll work really fucking hard, but they need to be told what to work on. And a lot of times we even get tricked into doing stuff that these Western guys make us do and all of that. So it's a little sad. But again, coming back to the whole idea of being a rule breaker, it's really a quintessential, or it's really an essential part of growing a business. So I'll give you an example where this whole rule breaker sort of idea was followed through with. So basically, when Elon Musk was building Tesla in the beginning, right, and they had, obviously they knew that, okay, we're going to be building cars and electric cars and all of that, but generally in the motor industry, how vehicles were built and stuff. I was reading about Tesla's, like, what is that breakthrough manufacturing competitive advantage that they have over their competitors. So it was this whole idea where generally in the motor industry, vehicles are built like in separate pieces, at least the frame of the vehicle. They're built in separate pieces and then they're joined together with screws and bolts and all of that. So Elon Musk got this idea from fucking toys, apparently. And I've read this in multiple places. I don't know how true it is, but he basically saw toy car manufacturing and he realized that the frames of these toys, or the bodies of these toys, are just built in one piece with one mold. Now, he was like, why can't we do that with our cars? And Tesla incorporated that. Now, the only real barrier over here was these molds have to be massive. Obviously, a toy car's mold is probably only this much, but you can imagine if you were to build a mold for a Tesla, these things have to be fucking huge. So fortunately, they did find somebody to build these molds for them. And that was their whole breakthrough advantage, because they're not only like, efficiency gains in this, because you don't have to go ahead and mold the pieces and then join them together, which is labor and time, which is huge efficiency problems. But you can build this entire frame of a car in one go. And obviously not the entire frame, probably they break it down into two pieces or something, I'm not too sure. But for the most part, huge parts of the car are built in one go. And then at the same time, it's lighter because you don't have to use the screws and nuts and bolts. And also it looks more aesthetic, right? Like the Teslas have the seamless look where they don't have rugged edges and bumps and cuts in the car. They're just one smooth, slick finish. So that was one whole idea where he was like, okay, this is how things are done conventionally. But why are they really done like that? Is there a more efficient way to do it? And you know what? Fuck it. These are how things are done. Let's do it differently. So this whole rule breaker idea really helps a lot in business. I think another place that we really go wrong in the current day and age, I can speak from my own example or my own life as an example, where when I was a kid, like when we were told to be, you did something wrong, we were punished, and we were given the stupidest of punishments where it would be like made to stand out of a class or, do some dumb shit like that, like face a wall or something, like so dumb. Like when I just think about these things right now, I'm like, what even? But I also studied in China in an American school, right? I don't remember ever being punished. Like maybe I was told to like mend my ways, or we did have something called detention, but I don't even remember ever getting detention. I think for once I got into detention because I had like failed a test or something. And detention was what you just sit in a classroom for like an extra hour after school or something, and you have to do some. I don't remember how it worked, but because I barely even went to it, and I was a pretty fucking naughty kid. And the whole like idea where you can fuck up and you will be all right, is something that was very prevalent in that school. So really our education system, like if you go back to first principle analysis, why the fuck was I made to stand outside my class when I did something wrong? Like what was the whole idea of it? I would just goof around anyways. Like I would roam around the school or do something stupid when I was made to stand around outside the class. So what is the whole idea of it? I don't know. But again, comes back the whole idea of this rule breaker nature sort of somewhere gets messed up through school and sort of pulled out of us or told to us that no, this is not something that's a good idea. Now, don't get me wrong, like this rule breaker idea can be taken to an extreme too, which is what I also notice happens a lot, right? I'll give you an example. So the other day we're traveling in the auto and we're going to the hospital, and me and my mom are sick, so we're getting checked. Now we should be, at least because we were quite bad condition, and we should be telling the auto driver like bega hogi or argenta hogbeko, husharilla or something like that, right? But we did not say anything. We just sat in the auto. Now, this auto rickshaw driver, he literally goes through every signal, irrespective of what the color is. Like, it does not make a difference to him. He just goes through it. Like, we literally broke prime signals. Like, one signal was on Mysore Road, which is a red signal, which is a huge, it's a fucking national highway. And then Saraki signal, which is like the biggest signal in South Bangalore, broke it. Like, no fucks at all. Just like I was surprised. Like, I mean, there weren't any cops obviously in Savaraki, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got a picture like sent to his home, like you've broken the signal or something. I don't know, but like there's no reason for it. Is the whole idea I'm trying to convey, right? Like some of this rebellious nature, it needs direction, right? It needs this sort of channeling that has to happen. You can be like a reckless rule breaker and just say fuck you to everything and break all the rules out there. But then that's no use either. So I think that's where the whole idea of guidance really comes into the picture of right rule breaker sort of energy. You need to be able to channel. In my case, fortunately, I had football to channel my reckless rule breaker energy where I was like, something to keep my mind occupied. And I was glad and not glad. Also, I guess the reason I say not glad is probably because if I were able to channel that reckless energy into something that would benefit more people than just me, football at the end of the day, for the most part, is a zero-sum game. I mean, maybe your team benefits at most, but at the end of the day, when you win a game, it's not like you're making a real change in any of any part of the world. And I wish I found better means of channeling that energy, but nonetheless, it was something that was keeping me off. Like a lot of people that have that sort of energy, they go down the route of alcohol, drugs, women, and all of that. But for me, fortunately, luckily, because of football, I was still able to stay in line with doing something meaningful, I guess. So channeling this reckless energy is also something that's really important. And I think it again all comes down to like role models and stuff that we have to follow. Now, if you really look at the Indian's business or startup ecosystem, it's like everybody's, I mean, for the most part, a lot of people are just building commodity businesses. And I was one of them too. So I think this is just a very subjective opinion. You can like skip the video at this point if you think it's dumb, because it's not like I have enough skin in the game to speak about this. But commodity businesses are very ever present, right? Like people are building quick commerce businesses because hey, quick commerce is the buzz. But I don't really think we need quick commerce businesses anymore. There are bigger problems that our country can be solving right now for ourselves, and we should be sticking to them. Easier said than done, obviously. I am a nobody, just sharing my thoughts and ideas. But if you're somebody that's building a business, then I think it's something really important to think about. Like, what can I just like? Should I just? There are like with Paint Me, which one of the reasons why it didn't settle with me to continue the business was because what we were doing is just at the end of the day like commodity business. It's what everybody's doing, right? Everybody, like anybody can build a painting or a mural painting company. Sure, we added different elements in there and all of that, and but at the end of the day, for the most part, you are a commodity business. So what sort of rules can we really break? What sort of systems can we change? And it's really hard in a country like India where there's so much regulation in place, and there's just this with the older generations, they just turn a blind eye towards us. So it's challenging. It's a different ball game. It's not that easy to be a rule breaker in business. But I guess for me, for the next few years, my only objective is to figure out a business where I'm actually changing things. Um, like sometimes maybe even the law. Like for example, I'm sure in a country like India it's probably much harder. But for example, Uber, like how vehicles have like yellow number plates on them, right? Uber when they started out in the US, they had something equivalent where you had to have like a taxi registration and stuff. But when Uber came into the picture, anybody could become a taxi driver. You had an extra car lying down, which is a huge thing in US. Like a lot of people had just the car lying down and they would not use it, and they would lot of them would be jobless, even living out of their car. So how do you make use of your car? Well, become an Uber driver, because you don't need to register for a taxi, becoming a taxi, which can be a cumbersome process. You just download the Uber app, you register to become a driver, and boom, you're a driver, and you can pick up and drop people and make money immediately. So the government actually tried to restrict Uber from growing because of this loophole that they figured out and all of that, and they tried preventing it from happening. But eventually, the government had to give in and just say that, yeah, you know what, like you can go ahead and like become a taxi driver without the number plate. In fact, I don't even know why do we have number plates. I mean, maybe yellow number plates, I think, probably help with, like, if you were a taxi driver, for identifying that you're a taxi driver. But I think with technology and the way things are changing, like I don't even look at number plates anymore, whether they're like taxi drivers and or not. And in Bangalore, at least, nobody's a taxi driver that isn't an Uber driver. Like if you're a taxi driver, you're probably on Uber, Ola, or Namayatri, or any one of those apps. So the whole idea of this video is it's a mix of channel your fuck you energy, channel your rebel energy with where we've sort of gone wrong, how to really fix things, maybe on a deeper level, and also at the same time to just make you know, or like reassure you that if you have that energy, that it's good, like it's a good thing. You just need to figure out how to give it direction and keep it alive. I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs, right? Like Steve Jobs talks about this whole idea where we sort of come into this world with really rough edges, and as we grow older, the world sort of softens those edges and makes us into this smooth ball. But that's not necessarily useful when you're trying to build something or make a change or make a difference. So really keeping your rough edges, at the same time finding some direction for all of those edges, I guess, if that makes any sense, is quintessential, is essential. And Yeah, that's the whole idea of rule breaker energy with business and Bangalore. I keep thinking about it, like, what if that auto rickshaw driver, what if you could tell him that, hey, look, like you have a rebellious energy, which is really good, but you could be doing things like this, and it's really not that hard. This is how you really go at it, how you can find, some sort of meaning in it, how you can grow a team with it, and all of that. And I'm sure you would benefit so many people's lives. But that's a bigger problem to solve. And I don't know, maybe that's an interesting problem to solve. But that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you gained some value from it. I know the structure for this video is a little random. I can feel it while I'm speaking. Like when I'm going from one point to the other, I'm just like, oh, wait, what's the connection? But we've lost touch of creating videos with good structure and all of that. But we'll get back into it one step at a time. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you gained some value from this video. If you did, then go ahead and like and subscribe. And if you know somebody that could get some value out of this or benefit out of this video, then go ahead and share it to them. But yeah, I hope to see you guys for the next video. And until then, bye.